What's going on, YouTube? It's your boy, CamATL, and welcome back to another DFS video with your boy. Drop a like down below because I already know you're going to love it. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Comment anything in the comment section and enter your name into the $50 giveaway that I do every single week on this channel. Welcome back to GreenLightDFS.com. As you can see on the screen, we are on the Greenlight DFS Optimizer where I put my personal projections in here each day where you can build lineups and stuff like that to go ahead and, set yourself up for success. Also, as you guys know, we post our optimals on the MLB Access page for members as well. Yesterday, the early MLB nearly got a takedown. We were one player off, like one player switch off of having an actual first place takedown. It was an amazing early slate yesterday. Excited to keep that momentum going into today's main slate. And excited for it. So let's go ahead and get straight into it. Not going to waste too much of y'all's time. GreenlightDFS.com. Go join up now. Some big dubs coming before this All-Star break, so let's lock in. All right, first and foremost, when it comes to pitching, in my opinion, Pablo Lopez is far above the rest for me here in this one. Pablo's at home in Minnesota, facing a high strikeout Kansas City team. This Kansas City offense just doesn't scare me much. Pablo Lopez, yeah, you're having to pay 10-1 for him, but he's a very solid option. He's got some good upside in this matchup as well. So Pablo Lopez is my guy as my number one guy, and then Bobby Miller as my number two. Bobby Miller's 8-3. He's at home in Los Angeles facing Pittsburgh. Pittsburgh has their moment, sure, but Bobby Miller's in a fantastic spot to give us what we need here at a solid price. I mean, him and Seth Lugo are right there around the same point per salary here. Lugo's facing a Angel squad without Mike Trout, which is always a better matchup than with Mike Trout. So Lugo's a fine option, sure. Both of these guys are playable, in my opinion. I'm going to side Bobby Miller. I just have him projected slightly higher. All right, and I don't really need to save any money to go to Lugo, but if you need that 400, sure, drop down the Lugo. Bobby Miller though has a over a 20% K rate versus lefties and righties, and then when you look at Seth Lugo, Seth Lugo also has a solid K rate, so you can go either way. Either way is perfectly fine to me, but Bobby Miller is what I'm going to side with today. All right. When it comes to the bats, now one offense that's sticking out to me is Toronto. Toronto sticks out to me because not only do they have a ton of power through their lineup, but all of their prices seem really good. You know what I mean? And we're going to go through some guys in a second, but Toronto sticks out to me also because Lance Lynn has over a 7 ERA at home this season. He has really struggled. He's giving up like a 290 over a 290 batting average. His WOBA he's given up is super high. You would think, oh, Lance Lynn at home, great spot for him. No, over a 7 ERA, like I said, he's over a 6. He's like a 6.9 ERA on the season, over 7 ERA while pitching at home. And Toronto just has a ton of power in this offense. Plus, the Vegas line has Toronto kind of like the sixth or seventh offense down, so you know they're not going to have a ton of ownership because people just randomly will look at a Vegas lines and go off the top projected Vegas lines. They don't really do much research into the slate, so you can take advantage of offenses, especially offenses like Toronto, who have double dongs all throughout the lineup. Like, they have a ton of power through their lineup. Maybe one of the most power-filled lineups in the entire MLB. And it's just a very solid spot for a lot of those guys. And their prices dropped from yesterday, too. So let's talk about some. First, at first base, Vladimir Guerrero got the home run for us last night. I'm running right back to the well here. At 4.8, Vladimir at 4.8 is just a stud with a ton of power that's under that 5K range. If you look at these top options here, Matt Olson 6'4", Pete Alonso 5'2", Christian Walker 5'4", Shohei 6'6", Freddie Freeman 6'1", and then you have Vladimir right here amongst them at the top at 4.8. I just really love the potential for Vladimir Guerrero. And then the best value at the position is Brandon Belt, the lefty. You know how bad Lance Lynn's always been versus lefties throughout his career. Brandon Belt is fantastic value here at 3K. So, yeah, Vladimir Guerrero is going to be my guy. I think he's got crazy upside. I feel like all of Toronto's pretty damn safe with how bad Lance Lynn has been at home and just overall this season. Like I said, giving up over a 290 batting average at home this season, giving up like 2 home runs per nine, giving up a ton of power, and you don't want to be giving up a ton of power and then have to face off against Toronto's lineup. That's just a tough, tough position to be in. All right. Next up, I'm going to get off of Toronto for my next favorite pick, and that's going to be in the outfield, a value play. That's one of my favorite on the slates, and that's Jarren Duran. Also had him on the early slate yesterday and just got us to the money easily yesterday. At 2.8, he's going to have that lefty-righty matchup against John Gray. Really, really love Duran lately. He's been absolutely smashing the ball and should be over 3K for sure, especially after yesterday's solid performance once again. But they refused to raise his price, so we will take advantage. He's a lock for me at 2.8. There's just not much value much better than him today. So I'm locking in Jarren Duran in the core. And then last but not least, I'm going to go another play outside of both of those offenses that I just talked about. And I'm going to talk about Gleyber Torres. He's not exactly a must play, but Gleyber Torres has been hitting the ball very, very well. He's at home in New York facing a bad righty in Kramer. I just feel like he's also a guy who's got a ton of upside in this spot. He just dropped a 27 just yesterday in this position. He gets another shot at it here. Like I said, Glaber's been hitting the ball very well. He's a fantastic option. If you want to pivot off Gleyber, other options around that price tag, you got Devers, you've got Francisco Lindor, you've got a bunch of other guys at that price range, but Gleyber Torres feels like a guy that we might be able to get at lowish ownership. Let me see what the Vegas line is for that real fast. And I can literally tell you who's high owned just by looking at Vegas lines real fast. All right, so if you look at Vegas lines for the day, and you look at the highest projected offenses on the slate today, you're going to have the Dodgers at number one, which is probably going to be a chalk stack if they can possibly spend up for all of them. And then you've got the Braves, Twins, Tigers, Reds, Boston. So yeah, you don't have New York. New York's projected 4.4 runs today. So because of that, Gleyber Torres is going to have very low ownership. So I really like this spot for Gleyber Torres. I think that we talked about Rafael Devers. I think that he'll have more ownership at that spot. I think Lindor will probably have more ownership than him at that price tag. But I'm going to rock with Gleyber Torres solely on the fact that he's got an equally good matchup. Vegas isn't popping too crazy hard on New York, so that's going to keep his ownership down. And in this spot, it's just a fantastic matchup for Gleyber. And might get him low owned as well. And as you know in baseball, taking advantage of these spots that have a ton of data backing them, yet Vegas is the only thing maybe not pushing them super hard. Vegas is what influences ownership 100%. Wherever Vegas is where ownership will be. It's pretty easy to discover where the ownership will be just by looking at Vegas. So you can immediately know that those Dodger bats are going to be extremely high owned. All right, so automatically pivoting to Toronto is going to be very low owned with all the power they have in their lineup, facing a pitcher that's got over a 7 ERA at home this year. Like, yeah, I'm definitely willing to attack that spot for sure. Um, we were talking about Gleyber Torres. I just want to get a little bit more in depth with Gleyber real quick. Um, Gleyber Torres not only had that big game yesterday, but he's got almost a 13% barrel percent. So he's just hitting the ball very flush. He's hitting the ball very hard, and that always turns into great things. All right, Gleyber has always been somebody who's just fairly consistent, but also has that power to really break a slate if he wants to. So I don't think he's locked, but I think for GPP purposes, where there might not be a ton of ownership on him, I think he's very interesting today in this matchup against Kramer. Okay, because Kramer is a guy that we talked about. I just talked about Gleyber Torres and how he's really been putting that barrel on the ball and hitting the ball real flush on that bat. Which when guys are hitting the good barrel part of that bat consistently, they're hitting home runs. They're hitting the ball hard. Hard contact normally coexists with the barrel percent, and they're just overall doing very, very well. Kramer gives up over a 45% hard contact rate, and he's been getting hit hard, and he's over a 10% barrel percent given up to righties himself. So Really solid spot for Glaber, especially over the last month or so for Kramer. He's really just given up a ton of hard contact. So I definitely like that spot for him, and I think he's interesting. All right. So Pablo Lopez and Bobby Miller as the two pitchers. You can fade off Bobby Miller to Seth Lugo if you would like. That's another guy that I'm okay with. If you need the money, that's fine. Vladimir Guerrero, Gleyber Torres, and Duran. Another reason to like Bobby Miller. Another reason that I'm siding slightly with Bobby Miller is that run support he's expected to get as well. All right, so if you look, San Diego's projected, their team total's projected at 4.9, where the Dodgers at 5.7. So Bobby Miller and Seth Lugo, whereas they're kind of equal with all their peripherals, if you look at the Vegas odds and what their offenses that they're pitching for are expected to do, Bobby Miller's expected to get a little bit more run support. So just solely off that alone as well is a good spot for a good little bump for Bobby, and why I have him projected slightly over where Seth Lugo is. All right, let's take a look at FanDuel real quick, and then I'll send y'all on y'all way. GreenLightDFS.com if you want the optimals. As soon as I'm done with this video, I'll be locking in and studying more of the slate to make sure that what we put up on the site is the most optimal version you can possibly play off roster construction, data, all that good stuff. So get involved there. If you see that, automatically you'll see Gleyber Torres really high up here over here. Reason being is because he's only 2.8, so I really want to get him in. 2.8 is very cheap. So Gleyber Torres at second base, really like that spot. Rafael Devers at 3.7 is really popping over here. And he is very good. I talked about liking him also on DK. He's in a very good spot as well. Let's sort point per salary and see if any amazing values popping over here real good. You've got Varsho. I talked about Toronto. Really like Toronto. I really like Brandon Belt. I have Varsho slightly ahead. Varsho's a very solid option at 2.8. Brandon Belt's also still a good option. Duran's 2.9 over here. He's still playable for sure. Let's look at our pitchers and see what the best pitching option is going to be today. It looks like Pablo Lopez is going to be the main guy. And then over here you have Seth Lugo at 8.6. Bobby Miller's 9.9. That's another benefit to Bobby Miller over on DraftKings is the price differential on FanDuel is massive. Bobby Miller over here on FanDuel is 9.9 compared to Lugo at 8.6. We're over on DK, it's only like a $400 difference. So Seth Lugo is my guy that I would go with. If I don't want to spend up for Pablo Lopez, Seth Lugo would be my guy I would go with. So right now I'm going to go Pablo because as you guys know on FanDuel, I like to make sure I get my pitcher right because of that scoring. Scoring can be massive for pitchers over here. Pablo Lopez is my favorite guy, but yes, Seth Lugo at 8.6 is very interesting. And if you need a spend down option to kind of get better bats throughout, which we're not really struggling to get great bats. I mean, we've got fantastic bats here. But if you need more money, you can go off Pablo Lopez to Seth Lugo for sure. Because if you see this, with Pablo, Gleyber, Devers, and Varsho in our core, it leaves us with slightly under 3K remaining. So you're going to need multiple guys under that 2K range, where if you look at point per salary, you have a few options that are decent. You've got Belt at that 2.7 range. You've got Cassis. We'll have that lefty-righty matchup at 2.6. Ryan O'Hearn will have a solid spot, but there's not a ton that's like, oh man, that's beautiful. You know what I mean? You've got Danny Jansen, part of that Toronto stack that I've talked about many times. You've got options. You know what? Because of the value options I'm seeing, I am going to drop down the Lugo. And that price is crazy. That feels like a really good price for me here. And that brings you all the way up to 3,400 remaining, which will be definitely easy for y'all to fill the rest of the way and definitely get, not only bats, but a pitcher in a very good spot as well. All right. Thank you guys for joining me as always, man. Good luck today. We're going for that big dub today, baby. Early slate really got me locked in. That was a fantastic. Needed a big W. Needed things to just click left and right. It's been a good little bit where like we'll have two guys in that lineup or so not do shit and just a couple guys let us down. That early slate was damn near perfect. We just needed like one guy off from that takedown range, and today we're getting it, baby. Let's get it. So Seth Lugo, Gleyber Torres, Devers, and Varsho for FanDuel, and then the core over on DraftKings is going to be Pablo Lopez, Bobby Miller, Vladimir Guerrero, Torres, and Duran. All right, thank you guys for joining me. Y'all have an amazing day, and let's get this W tonight. I'm out.